are in the process. And thank you everyone for your presence. I will give now over to Prof Motshekga, who is our international patron of the Adwa movement in South Africa. And he will introduce our special guest speaker for our second annual Adwa Roots, Culture, Heritage and Decolonization Week public lecture. And we are honored by their esteemed presence. Prof, the floor is yours.
I think what a great honor to have a very distinguished scholar and also genuine Pan-African, dedicated Pan-African, today to come to celebrate 130 years great Adwa victory, which made Europe feeling that their might has always been their right. Adwa victory made it wrong. Africa won. We lost. They say it like that. So for him to come and speak and explain to you the rich knowledge he has, I call him the knowledge imagination library. Genuinely incredible. The indigenous knowledge he knows, not many people know. I learned from him, I must be honest with you. In 2007, in Polokwane, he has now forgotten the paper he's written. He wrote a paper on Ethiopianism, Pan-Africanism, and the African Renaissance, connecting them. And when I read that paper, I didn't know how he found this. I was fascinated. Then I started telling all Ethiopians, you know about Ethiopia. He knows more about Ethiopia, Professor Mathole, than any of you. So a lot of them learned a lot. After that, we educated everyone through what he did. So even he's our teacher and our brother, and he's gracious, precious, and I really am so delighted that. And he's got the Kara Heritage Institute. You would not believe the history, the African history is also very well recorded there. And the library is very good, the books, many things we have. And I want him to really teach all the younger generation, because in the age where he is now, he needs to really do this. So the greatest opportunity that he's speaking on this important day, this celebration we are trying to do, we must make this great Adwa victory, because it's an African victory, it's not an Ethiopian victory. It's all of us. We defeated Europe. Colonialism was defeated. The Europeans say that. And then they still continue to say that if Africa rises, we will always lose. Therefore, we must divide Africa. They still do like that. They fight us like that all the time. So now I'm so happy he's with us. And he was in Zambia, many things, places, he has so many things to do, that he sacrificed that and joined us. And welcome. I appreciate him very much. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Professor Motshekga, brothers and sisters and fellow Africans, it is a great honor for me to be invited here on the celebration of the Battle of Adwa, which, as Professor Motshekga says, was not just an Ethiopian battle, but an African battle. But what is interesting as well is that the word Ethiopia also referred to the whole of Africa at the beginning. And now maybe we should look at the question. What is Ethiopia of the ancient, and where is it? And how the West came to distort the concept of Ethiopia and also to divide Ethiopians, because we were all Ethiopians, but they divided us and why. And therefore, I want to start with the distortion of the concept of Ethiopian, and also come to the reasons why the battle of Adwa was fought in defense of that original Ethiopia that today we call Africa, and why African unity continues to be important, because what we have on the continent is political freedom. But when that war, when the battle of Adwa was fought, it was for more than just political freedom. It was fought to defend African identity, dignity, freedom, equality in the community of nations, and for social and economic independence. And the question we can ask today is whether the leaders that we have on the continent have not lost sight of why the battle of Adwa was fought, and whether what we call African freedom today really answers to what that war was fought. So what brought me together with Professor Motshekga and why we are still together is that I share with the vision of Emperor Menelik and his companions, who led the war and defeated the Italians. And you will remember that that war was fought after the conference of Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, which sought to partition and divide the African continent among European powers. But the Ethiopians said no. And when they were attacked, they defended themselves and conquered a European power and demonstrated that Europeans were not invincible, they could be defeated. And that inspired the whole Pan-Africanist spirit and encouraged other African nations to resist European colonization. And that's why that war is important for all African peoples. Firstly, to show them that European imperialism and colonialism can be defeated and was defeated. Secondly, that Africa, as in the past, is one continent, and the people of this continent are one and the same in their diversity. Now, if that was the vision of Emperor Menelik, which is the vision that laid the foundation of the present-day African unity, Pan-Africanism, African cultural renaissance, then the question is, can we really move forward without all of us reconnecting with that vision and in knowing the content of that vision? Because that vision was not just about political freedom. That's why even the Pan-African leaders who came after Emperor Haile Selassie all said, we have political freedom, but it's not yet over, that we have not yet arrived. But most of the leaders, current leaders, think that they have arrived, and that is a false thing. And that's why we know, even when we go to the African Union, others are Anglophone, others are Francophone, others are Lusophone, and so on. And within the AU itself, then you have an Arab bloc who call themselves the Arab League, but they are inside the African Union. So when they come in, they come after having worked out their position, which they sell within the AU, and even go to an extent of buying some leaders, like the Westerners do, buying some leaders, which makes African unity very, very difficult. But perhaps we should be happy that there is a new leadership emerging, especially in West Africa, led by Traore, Mali, Niger. They are really coming with a vision, which some of us think that it will take us back to reconnect with the vision of Emperor Menelik. Now, let me then deal with the question of where I think things went wrong. And I must apologize in advance, because now we belong to different churches, and we take our cue from the Bible, and then the churches, all these churches use the Bible, but if the Bible is truly their source, why do we have the Roman Catholic, and some people call themselves Catholics, which is an Italian sect? Others say they are Anglican, which is an English sect. Even people who are not English, they call themselves Anglicans. And Anglican simply means English. And then you have the Dutch Reformed Church. For the Dutch, we have the Russian Orthodox. Now, why so many churches but one Bible? What makes them different if they are truly talking about one God? Now, all these people came to Africa to convert Africans to Christianity. But was that a genuine conversion, or was that a political movement which came to stupefy us so that they can take our land and its natural resources? Because I don't want to shock you that when we read the Bible, if we can read it correctly, we will find that Adam was supposedly created in the year 4004 BC. If you make your calculations from the years put in the Bible. But Ethiopia and Egypt already had pyramids and temples before the time of Adam. And also, if you read the history of marriage, one of the sons of Adam married from other people. Where were these other people from? They married from other people. Who were these other people? And also, when you read the history of ancient Ethiopia from the Greek authors, they say Ethiopians were the first of all humanity, which means Ethiopians existed before Adam. And who are these Ethiopians? These were indigenous African people. And these Greek authors also say that ancient Ethiopians, ancient Egyptians, were the descendants of ancient Ethiopia, which means that ancient Egypt and its civilizations came from Ethiopia. Now, where did the Ethiopians say they come from? They say they came from the source of the Nile. And the source of the Nile, there are two sources of the Nile. It's Lake Tana in the present day Ethiopia. And then there is Lake Island of the Sun in Lake Victoria, in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, which means that ancient Egyptian civilization came from ancient Ethiopia, and the cradle of ancient Ethiopia is in the heart of Africa. And now, what is the origin of the word Ethiopia? The Greeks say it is the land of sunburnt people. Sunburnt people. Where can the sunburnt people, if not right inside Africa? And now, actually, they said sunburnt because they don't know. You know, the equator is called ATPU, ATPU, or up to APTU. Now the word ATPU, the key there is TP. That TP is Tapa, and up to PT is Pata. So the word Tapa is the root of the word Ethiopia. And the word Pata is the root of the word Egypt. Now the word Tapa and Pata mean the one or the good. This one and the good can only be God. So which means ancient Ethiopians and Egyptians and their African descendants are the children of the one of the good, which is God. And that's why if you go to literature, you find that Ethiopians were called the blameless Ethiopians. Blameless Ethiopians, which means the good people. And these good people, where they originated, at the source of the Nile, that place is also called Danduran or Tanturan. In Greek, Tanturan is Dendera, and then Tanturan is Taneta, which means the divine land, which means that the Ethiopians originated from the divine land, and they are divine people, and that's why they are called the blameless people. But now, when we go to our schools and everywhere, we are defined just as the sunburnt people. because those people don't know us. Now, the source of the Nile is also called Buntu or Punt or Kwantu or Kantu. So the ancient Ethiopians were simply called the Bantu, the children of Ndu or Ndu. That's why we still have the name Bantu, Abatu, and our value system is called Ubuntu Wotu. This thing comes from far, far. And the word Ndu or Nut is also a name of the sky goddess, which means we can also be defined as the children of the sky, the children of the sun god. And what is also interesting is that apart from the people who say we come from the Garden of Eden, which with respect is a lie, because even archaeologists can't find that Garden of Eden. But everything that we say about Africa, you can find in the pyramids and everywhere, but you can't find the Garden of Eden. But also, we have this Islam. Islam was founded by Bilal, an Ethiopian, who came with the system of Menrat, of calling people to prayer. But today, that Ethiopia, this Islam, which was founded by an Ethiopian, is dominated by the Arabs. And in South Africa, the black Muslims are even protesting. They are forming their own organization. They say they are being oppressed in the mosques. And the reason we had an Ethiopian church movement was also because black people were discriminated in state institutions and in the church institutions. So in 1896, when Mathole defeated the organization, African people throughout the continent and in the islands were already angry because they were violently defeated. Their land and their resources were violently taken away from them. And when they were still suffering from the wounds of slave trade and colonization, the Western churches came to soften them so that they must accept colonialism. That's why King Leopold of Belgium sent missionaries to the Congo and said to them, don't teach these African people any God, because they know more about God. Just teach them that it's difficult for rich people to enter the kingdom of heaven because they are to go to heaven. You must be poor. You mustn't have all these riches. But black people tell them that they will find peace and prosperity in heaven, not on earth. That's the religion that the West taught us. And that is the religion that the Ethiopians and the Egyptians rejected. And that's why we had the Coptic Church of Egypt established in 46 AD, by Saint Mark, assisted by an Egyptian called Ramose, or in Greek, of Messias. And then that's why we had the Ethiopian Coptic Church, which was established by the eunuch of the Kantase of Meroe, and later taken by King Ezana, assisted by the 9 saints from the monasteries of Egypt. So the Christianity, which was taught in Egypt and in Ethiopia, is not the same as the Christianity taught by the Romans. Even today, the Ethiopian church is not following the same doctrines with the Roman church. That's why if you go to the social media, you will find that there are books which are being discovered in Ethiopia, which says that Jesus didn't teach what St. Paul and St. Peter were teaching. St. Peter and St. Paul were teaching political Christianity, whereas Ethiopia, Egypt, and Africa were teaching something different. And now, in 1945, there were books discovered at Nag Hammadi, southern Egypt. These books included the book of Mary Magdalene, the wife of Jesus, included the book of Jubilee, the book of Thomas, and many other books. They were discovered in 1945. And the book of Mary Magdalene say that Mary Magdalene was married to Jesus. And then also that Jesus did not die on the cross. A black man called Simon of Cyrene. Cyrene is today's Tunisia. Carried the cross for Jesus because Jesus was tired and there was commotion. Jesus and Mary Magdalene disappeared and they killed Simon of Cyrene. But today the church is telling us that even if we suffer, we are poor, we are sick, we shouldn't worry because Jesus died for us. Why did Jesus die for us? What mistakes did we make? The sins were committed by the Jews and the Romans, and not us. We didn't need anybody to die for us. And there's no God who sent anybody to die for us. But Jesus was a freedom fighter. He was fighting to defend Egypt and Palestine. And that's why he became the enemy of the Romans and their puppets in Jerusalem. So the whole history of the world has been falsified, and Christianity has been politicized. All these many churches that exist here are political institutions to keep African people asleep. But the good thing is that at least in Ethiopia, you know, what happened was that Ethiopia signed a treaty with Italy, the Treaty of Ossiali. Yeah. Now the Ethiopians recorded the agreement in Ges, their own language, and the Italians used Italian. But when it comes to the interpretation, the Italians said that Ethiopia will be a protectorate of Italy. And now the Ethiopians said no, that is not the case. And then in a meeting where Menelik and his wife, Tayutu, were present when the discussion took place. Now the Italians said, no, they had already informed the European powers that Ethiopia would be their protectorate, and that everything that Menelik does must go through Italy. And Menelik said, no, that can't be. And his wife, and they said they can't do that because it would affect their dignity. And the wife of Menelik said, you know what, we also have our own dignity. If we accept that, your interpretation, it will affect our dignity. And that's why the war started in January 1896. But you see, Menelik was a very intelligent and spiritual person. He would wake up at 6 in the morning and pray before he does anything. And when they went to war, they said, Ethiopia shall stretch her hands towards God. And in South Africa, when the Ethiopian church was established, they used the same phrase that Ethiopia shall stretch her hands towards God. But that God of Ethiopia cannot be the same God as the God of Netanyahu in Israel, the God who authorizes the taking away of the land of the Palestinians, the killing of women and children in Palestine, cannot be the same God which sent the Boers to take our country and say he's giving them to them. You can see that actually what they call Satan, it is a God that Netanyahu and the Boers are worshiping. Now we go to their churches to pray, to strengthen the hand of their God against ourselves. So Menelik, his wife, and the Ethiopian people who have been spiritual people, they relied on the God of peace. But now the colonizers have confused us in such a way that we pray the God of the colonizer, who is Satan, and then forget the God of Ethiopia. And that's why Marcus Garvey said that we must pray God through Ethiopian eyes. And now, who was this God of Ethiopia that must be prayed through Ethiopian eyes? You see, if you go into Ethiopia, you get sphinxes. There are sphinxes in ancient Ethiopia and Egypt. And there are more sphinxes in Ethiopia than in Egypt. And what is a sphinx? What is it called? It is called Yahoo or Jah Abakra. And if you read ancient Egyptian literature, you will find the word Yahoo or Jah, which means the Alpha and Omega. Now, the word Yahoo is the root of the word Javeh, which is spelled I-H-V-H, or Yahweh, which is pronounced Jehovah. So Jehovah is not the God of Israel. Jehovah is the God of Africa, the God of Ethiopia, that they stole. Now they say Moses went on Mount Sinai and God, Jehovah, the African God, gave him 10 commandments. But the 10 commandments are 10 out of 42 commandments, which are contained in a book called Pert Emeru. the Book of the Divine Light, which is today called the Ethiopian or Egyptian Book of the Dead. And our children can't even read this book because it's called Book of the Dead, whereas that is a book of the divine light. And now the word Bible comes from Helio-Biblica, which means the Sun Book. So Bible can be any book, even these two of mine are Bible. But they have taught us to say there's a Holy Bible. Their book is the only one that is holy. But that Bible was written in Africa at the University of Alexandria. And it was consolidated by a soldier, a Jerome, in 325. But the British revised it more than 1,000 times. Where you have the word emperor, they put king. That's why the Bible is King James. It's not Emperor James. So they say in that these sunburnt Ethiopians are actually black people. They are black because they watched the nakedness of Noah. And that's all false, because Noah had only two children, Shem and Japheth. He never had a child called Ham. Now the question is, what is this Ham? The question of Ham comes in the following manner. When the Ethiopian originated at the source of the Nile, there was a time when the Nile overflooded. When the Nile overflooded, many thousands of people drowned and died. The survivors went to Asia and to Europe. And that's why even today, dark-skinned people in Europe and Asia are being suppressed. And now those who remained in the continent, they went to East Africa and established an empire called the Empire of Kem. That Kem was called Shambe, Nyambe, Kembe, Kem or Kem. And he was the first prophet on earth. And even the Europeans accept that Lord Kem was the first of all scientists, prophets, and so on. If you look at the emblems today, you'll see a sign of two snakes. That is the sign of Lord Kem in Africa, who was also called Tau Haram, Greek thought Hermes. They still worship that, but they change him and say his name is Asclepius, a Greek. But all the sciences were invented by the Ethiopian Lord Kem or thought Hermes. People like Pythagoras, Einstein, or these Western scientists, they are the disciples of the Ethiopian priest thought Hermes. So they turned around history to put themselves about the Ethiopians, but all the knowledge they claim to have came from Ethiopia. The knowledge that the Egyptians have came from Ethiopia. But the people who remained in Northeast Africa came to be known as the Kemites or Hamites. And these are the people who established this northeastern state called Akakam or Akakum or Akatum, and then you have a city in Ethiopia called Aksum. That city of Aksum has all the secrets of the continent, because it's the people from there who went to establish Egypt itself. And the whole of the Sudan was part of the state of Ethiopia, including southern Egypt, which was capital. Now, the people that are called Coptic came from southern Egypt because at some point, northern Egypt did not exist. It was established by Pharaoh Mena, called Menes in history, who was an Ethiopian prince. He united the north after the water had receded, the north and the south. Then in 5619, then that's when the Empire of Egypt started, founded by the Ethiopians. But today, Ethiopians and the whole of Africa are called third world people who must be civilized by Europeans, which is not true. Even today, Europeans cannot survive on themselves except without Africa. Everything they need for their civilization, from food, technology, minerals, they can only get from Africa. But to stop us from building on our original civilization, they have to make sure that we are at war all the time. And whilst we are at war, we are digging minerals in the DRC and everywhere. But what are the problems of South Africa? You know that, as I said, the Sudan was part of Greater Ethiopia, which created Egypt. Now, I come from the people who lived in ancient Ethiopia on the Sudanese part. There's a place there called Napta, and now it's called Gordof, next to the Nuba Mountains. That's why Ethiopians were also called Nubians, because they lived next to the Nuba Mountain. Nuba simply means gold, which means Ethiopians are golden, blameless people, good people. Now, our king in Napta was Tobel. And the word Tobela also means the sun. And therefore we were called the people of the sun. And then a son of Tobela broke away and settled on the shores of Lake Tanganyika in the present-day Democratic Republic of the Congo. And he was succeeded by his son called, the son of Tobela was Mambire, and established the empire of Mbire on the shores of Lake Tanganyika. And he was succeeded by his son called Nembire. And from there, they migrated south and established the empire of Kalaga. And the founder was Nomutapa. And therefore, the empire came to be known as Empire of Kalaga, or the Empire of Nomutapa. And these people from Ethiopia who came to Southern Africa came with the ancient secrets, which were kept given to the Egyptians by the ancient Ethiopians. So that empire of Nomutapa stretched from the Zambezi right to the Cape here, and the so-called Khoisan people there shared the same knowledge and systems with ancient Ethiopians and ancient Egyptians. That's why if you look at the ships which came to the coast of Mozambique from Egypt. You'll see the Khoisan people are dressed in the same way as the ancient Egyptians, and their ships were the same. And Pharaoh Khufu, called Cheops in Greek, who was a native Egyptian of Ethiopian descent, said that the Khoisan are the forebears of all African people, and that if you abuse them, you had to be punished severely. And King Moshoeshoe of Lesotho said that the Khoisan, our ancestors, you can't abuse them. So what we are taught in these institutions, in the universities, is far from the truth. Is the knowledge that is designed to make us think that the European is closer to God and he has all the knowledge. And also, if you want to be civilized, you must do what the Europeans tell you to do. But before I go, let me say that you see, there is a zodiac called Ben stone that the ancient Ethiopians divided, taught that God built the zodiac that separates the spiritual world from the material world. Now, the oldest zodiac on earth are the zodiacs of Dendera or Punt, which is at the Sosudi, the oldest. And the second is the zodiac of Kem, which was established by ancient Ethiopia, and the zodiac of Naptab Plaza. And if you look at those zodiacs, they have 12 houses. These 12 houses are inhabited and governed by what are called the Horus Kings. The Horus Kings symbol is the eagle. You will see that throughout Africa, the eagle is the emblem of all royals. But the Europeans took that eagle, they make it theirs. And now the God of Africa made the gods of the 12 houses of the zodiac, the sevens. They are called the sevens of the sun, Shamshu, Hara, or Shamshu, Hor in Greek, or Horus Kings. So the kings of ancient Ethiopia and Egypt descended from these Horus Kings. So people like Emperor Menelik, they descend from that line. But these people have created another story to say that, the Ethiopians are the descendants of King Solomon. If one of my sons go and marry in China and then have a child fathered by a Chinese, does it mean that I and all my children are Chinese? So it can't be true that all the Ethiopians are said to be the children of Solomon. It can't be true. Also, Solomon went to school in Egypt when the Libyans had colonized Egypt, and he married a child of the Libyans, and he fell in love with the Queen of Sheba. But they create a single narrative which suggests that all Ethiopians, all black people, are the children of Solomon. It's not true. But also, what complicates the matter is, who is Solomon? Do you know that when Abraham came into Africa with his wife, no child, he sent to an Ethiopian man who was ruling Egypt and said his wife is his sister. That Ethiopian fathered a child with Sarah. That child was Isaac. So Isaac was a descendant of the Ethiopians. And now Isaac fathered Esau and Jacob. Jacob became the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, who were the 12 tribes of Israel? They were descendants of the Ethiopians. And Moses, they say they picked him up in the water. Moses was fathered by a Jewish slave with the daughter of a Pharaoh. So Moses was an African, was an Ethiopian. That's why when he had a problem, he fled to Ethiopia. He married an Ethiopian. And they kill him on the way so that he doesn't arrive in Palestine, because they didn't want black people. Because also his wife was black, he was black. They kill him, they say, God said you won't arrive in Palestine. It's a lie. And these are the things that they put in the Bible as they revise the Bible. So I say this simply, before I go that, they say Sarah gave Hagar to Abraham. Abraham fathered Ishmael. So Ishmael is our grandchild. And then Jacob, the father of the Israelites, is our grandchild. They come with a religion which they stole from us. They say they are converting us to religion. How can we be converted to religion by our grandchildren? So all these things are lies. And in short, it really means that as Ethiopians, as African people, we must find our true roots. We must define ourselves unless we want to suffer forever. And we must thank Emperor Menelik for having relied on the true God and established a true religion in Ethiopia and never accepted what came from Rome. Rome is in Italy. What did the Italians do in 1935? They invaded Ethiopia because they didn't want Ethiopians to determine their own future. And Emperor Haile Selassie told the Europeans that if you allow these people to do what they did to me, they are going to do the same to you. What happened? Then you had World War II, and the Europeans saw what the emperor had said, and that's why they helped him now to return to this country. Also because they would not have won World War II without the African support. And people like Kwame Nkrumah and the Nigerian and all these African nationalists, yes, they were inspired by the Ethiopian victory in 1896, and then the Ethiopian resistance in 1935, which brought Haile Selassie into power. So the struggle of the African people is one and the same, and it was inspired by the backing of Adwa, and therefore the sooner we work together to develop a curriculum, a new history of Africa, African spirituality, and a curriculum that can be taught from the Cape to Cairo to Dakar, and hence the idea of a Pan-African university that Prof is pushing is a very valid idea. But you see, if you look at Africa today, they look to Ethiopia, Addis and Pretoria for guidance. But at least the legacy of Emperor Menelik is there to see. The legacy of Emperor Haile Selassie is there to see, and we are all following it. But South Africa is housing the Pan-African Parliament. But South Africans are very confused, and unless we deal with that confusion, we will have no future. Can you imagine that we claim that we are a democratic state, and this democracy, we say it comes from Europe, but we have 400 parties now. And who funded the creation of these parties is Anglo-American and the GA. And the GA are run by a secret society, the British secret society, and the Freemasons. So the Freemasons came together with Afrikaner bonds and then created the Union of South Africa. And even today, we are ruled by the British secret society and the Afrikaner bond. If you go to Parliament here, there are offices of the Freemasons on Parliament. That's why that Parliament has become a joke. We fight amongst ourselves, we make noise, we have no direction. So my view would be that we can't rely on the schools and the universities that we have. We must get together as African people and go back to Emperor Menelik and his vision, and then unite around that vision and push the idea of the Pan-African University. But to make that university succeed, I was in Zambia. I came back on Thursday, and we visited the house of Oliver Tambo. And Oliver Tambo, Julius Nyerere, Kaunda, and these African leaders followed in the footsteps of Emperor Menelik. But our generation of leadership in the ANC and this many political parties, we are not in that space. And to correct the situation, I'm meeting with the president on Monday. I want to tell him that we need to establish Oliver Reginald Tambo University of Arts, Humanities, and International Relations. Because all these other universities are based on Western ideas. But if you look at international relations, Menelik was a champion. Tambo was a champion. So it will go back to those stalwarts. Exactly. And Nigeria. And you see, if we can have that university in South Africa, it will be one of the pillars of the Pan-African University. So I must just thank the young people here who organized this, who believe that, Jesus established a big organization, although they distorted this organization. Muhammad established a big organization. And they didn't start with 100 people. They started with 50. So you mustn't give up and say, oh, the hall is not full. It's not a full hall which creates direction. It is a few people who are committed, who know where they are. And now our sister here was talking about the struggles of those days with Ashley. And when you walk around, they will never put the statutes of the right freedom fighter. So we must not give up, but we must keep on fighting for the right thing to be done. So I'm very happy to have been invited here, because this meeting comes at a time when, a few veterans of the ANC, including Balega Mbete, we came together and said, culture is a weapon of strength. If Ethiopia had not refused to follow the Roman Church, there would be no Ethiopia today. If Ethiopia had not refused to follow Islam, there would be no Ethiopia today. So we need in South Africa African Heritage Council, where we bring the spiritual leaders, Ethiopian churches, that is all indigenous churches, and have a great Ethiopian movement as a spiritual arm of the political movement. And we need a Pan-Africanist or university. And forget about people who divide us on the basis of color. That I am light complexions, I'm too dark. What? A human being is not color. A human being is a spiritual thing that is inside all of us. And what is inside all of us has no black color, colored color, white color. Those things are just tricks that are being used to divide us. So let's get together and be one organization of Emperor Menelik, and make sure that this whole Africa follows the Ethiopian direction, like the Europeans follow European things, the Chinese follow Chinese things. Why can't we follow Ethiopian direction? Thank you very much for listening to my complaints, and I'm really inspired to see the young people holding the torch, and they would live long to see the fruits of their
Thank you, Prof Motshekga.
I think we should have given him 5-6 hours.
It was a lot of downloads and a lot of secrets, and yes, one thing I can note is that people want to be knowledgeable. People want to know about Africa. They want to know about their origins and their own DNA and what, but they do not make the effort, the sacrifice, the conviction at the deep spiritual and psychological level to participate where great elders come and bless us with their energy and their effort and their sacrifice. So for as a young adult, I can only reflect on that. I will seal up. Right now, I would like to continue the program. So, Prof, yes, thank you. We're going to go into the presentation of the Pan-African University. I'm also a recently appointed volunteer of the Institute of Pan-African Studies, which is a registered NBC. So there is, we have structures in place to scale up. Our issue at this point in time is the lack of economic freedom. Because for us to scale up, for us to be more impactful, right, we need the resources. And we've pushed what we have into these things. We've pushed adverts on social media. We've done what we can with what we have. But if we have more, I'm sure we can even to go towards our communities and so forth. But we give thanks for the foundations that we are laying. for the foundations will not be destroyed, even if they flood the gates. So I would like to give over to Prof Motshekga, who will represent or present the idea of the Adwa Pan-African University. And you will
Through the chair, blessed love. Before we move on to the other presentation, I pray thee, blessed love.
Blessed mums.
Greetings, greetings, greetings to our family. I would like to I am the Empress Queen Mother Moses, Dr. Marcia Olive Stewart, and I am the co-host of the Global Run Pack. That's the Rastafari Unity Nation Pan-African Collective for unity in the community with economic prosperity for the Africans at home and abroad. What has been presented here is the historical foundation and historical heritage that I and I claim as Ethiopians born abroad. I want to thank you, Professor, all of the ones who have been responsible for bringing this program together. We do not have in the audience, both online and otherwise, the ones who should be here for Global Run Pack. And today was the day we should have had it, and we did not have it because we wanted ones to support this effort. March is, the beginning. March 1st, the Battle of Adwa, and I would like to invite this presentation as the primary presentation for the March Global Run Pack, because this is information we can take the following weeks to build up and promote, so that I can ensure that those who need to hear this information will hear the information and will know why I are standing firm as Ethiopians born abroad. Emperor Haile Selassie, the ascendant of Emperor Menelik, did come to Jamaica, and I'm talking to you from Jamaica now. And he claimed I as blood Ethiopians. He had also said that Jamaica should have been seated with the Organization of African Unity, because he understood that we are one people, no matter where we are born. I had been blessed through Mulligate highly to have gotten access to a book that had been translated, that had given I the history of the people that were taken from Jamawerelu in Ethiopia by the Arabs to Mesopotamia, and the British had bought them, and they ended up in Jamaica and other parts of the Caribbean as part of that trade. So I are blessed here in Cassava Peace, my African village, which is a sovereign village. I am part of 7th generation born free on the slave plantation called Cassava Peace, because cassava was the primary cultivation crop. I am 70 years old in May, and I am blessed to know that we had a church called Lalibela. We have a corner in Cassava Peace called Lalibela. You understand? So we know that our Ethiopian people were part of what my mother would tell us. They saw these shackles on the hills. Our hill for the Maroons is called Honey Hill. So I give thanks for this teaching, and it has to be put out, and we will take responsibility for ensuring that the leaders that should be hearing this should hear it and have further evidence, because we say we are the boss, the blessed, omnipotent, spiritual scientists. We are spiritual scientists because we have to have evidence of our spirituality, and that is what is being given to I. And I thank thee, and I will turn over and continue. Know that this is part of Global Run Pack. Our we claim our African identity, we claim our Ethiopian identity, because Emperor Haile Selassie came and claimed I. First, he went to America in 1954 and claimed those in America. Them waiting on them 40 acres and the mule. And when he came to Jamaica in 1966, I had already been waiting, and we know that the Trinity Daddy had arrived because he stopped in Trinidad before he came to the island that Jamaica. I are clear, and we give thanks for this evidence so we can continue to be spiritual scientists dealing with economic prosperity for future generations. Give thanks for all these words, and blessings for the work you've been doing, Rashain. We support thee. Blessed love.
Thank you very much, and keep up the fires burning in Jamaica and the whole Caribbean. Yes. We are together, we are one and the same people. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mama Moses is part of the Global Run. The Global Run, we are working also with the Ethiopian World Federation. The Ethiopian World Federation was established on the charter in America, chartered by His Majesty to say go and establish the EWF, which is still a functioning organization. The Madam President of the EWF is also the international representative for the or a point of contact for the Crown Council of Ethiopia, Prince Ermias, His Imperial Highness. And that is also what has made it possible through these networks for us to get the letter of appreciation, which I will present later in the program. I would like now to just, so what I'm going to do is, Prof, you can speak onto the mic. I will share, no, it's fine, Prof, I will share the presentations. I will look here, but I will share the presentation on the Zoom. So the presentation as you will be, it will be on Zoom. So you can go through it. Okay. Thank you.
So should I just?
So you can speak. The mic is on here, yeah, okay. And I will read from your presentation because I would like to see how you're moving.
Can I hold it or? Is it...
No, it's on you.
The mic is there now.
It's listening. Yes, and I'm sharing the.
Okay, you're sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. They can't see it though.
They can see it. The people can see.
They can see. Okay. First and foremost, let me appreciate very much my great brother. It's very, what he said was amazing. This rich history. And this is not something we all learn. We never learned. The history I learned was not possible. And so we missed so much knowledge. So that's why now we need to think of decolonizing even the education system completely. It's not just economic land, all right, operations, so on, but also even it's a knowledge heritage. For us, creating Africa is extraordinary. I just want to say a little bit to you. This Ethiopian Orthodox Church, it is not religion at all. It's a knowledge, astronomy, knowledge of medicine, on architecture, on every sphere, mathematics, binary logic mathematics. The entire mathematical system for this entire internet world was created with us. Even the British and others have acknowledged it, but we don't know it. And it's incredible. The language, the Giz alphabet, was created long when Ethiopia was Africa as a whole. It's your language. It's not mine or no, don't call it Ethiopian. It's African language. And the Europeans call it's the mother of all languages, the father of all languages. They didn't have the Latin script, the Roman script. They said doesn't match it. But what do our own people do? They prefer to go to the Roman one. They don't want to know. Now we're created Afrobeat, an African language. We're using technology to see if we could digitalize all languages with this alphabet. We're working on it. We're trying, but it's not easy because all of you have to know it and appreciate it. But then unless you know this history that he knows, it's not going to be easy. And the young people must know. So now we are thinking, and just one more point from what you said, on this Adwa victory thing, the most important player was Empress Tide. There was a book written by an American from Wisconsin University. Chris Prout is her name. She wrote a book on Empress Taitu and Emperor Menelik. Her book has been written in English, and luckily when I was teaching in America, 2-3 times I met her, and she was very, very nice lady. Unfortunately, she's passed away now. Now what we did was, my friends, all of us, now translate. The Ethiopians don't know it, so we said let's translate the book into the Amharic language. Now the book has it cost us a bit. We did it. I just want to tell you, without Empress Tide, the Italians would have colonized us. The Italians started the war in 1890, right? They fought us for about 5 years. In 1896, we defeated them because of our strategy. Without a strategy, we would not have been. So you, the women, are important. I mean, you must learn from no, sincerely. You know why she said, I'm a woman. I do not like war, but I would rather die than accepting your Mudjadji treaty deal. She said like that. Not at all. Then she said, when the emperor, he was in a difficult situation because he was here and there. So he was not completely, then he said, some of his generals and others said, we don't want to go to war. But the Italians would beat us. So why? So he was a bit confused. Then she said in the meeting, I'm leaving now. I'll go to Adwa. I am sincerely telling you, whether you come or you don't come, we will win. Isn't that interesting? She said, yes, we will win. I will have a strategy. We'll do it. Who was that? Take it right to Empress Tide, the wife. The wives. Then the emperor himself was confused, but he said, when she did this, he said, I support my wife. He said, and he sided with her. Because there was a division. Because some of them were, with the Italian side, some of them were very confused. So she said no. And then she went, and she did the strategy also about how to defeat them. About 20,000 Italians were killed. The way they did it was an amazing way. She also knew where to fight, how to fight, when to do it. She was amazing. So I just want to tell you, the women, we are our mothers and sisters. So please behave. Okay. As our great brother said, we need an exemplary model. Yes, to create a new university. Really, an African university must be created. We don't have still an African university. We don't still teach, we still copy and mimic, and we don't really excavate, revive the rich knowledge heritage that was created from us. So what we thought was, because Adwa victory, right, it was a victory against Europe. The whole of Europe said were defeated by Africa defeated us. That's what they said. It's not us who said it. If you see it in the media, President Thabo Mbeki actually, did all the media presentation in the 120 years. I wish you could read it, his presentation, listen to it. If you see, on the entire media, they said it's a victory of Africa against Europe. So because of that, we also want a knowledge victory. Now, a knowledge decolonization. We need to know, the great knowledge creators. For example, we have the genius of genius, Imhotep.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you know him. He's Einstein of Einstein. He's African. You know what the Europeans say? Imhotep, he cannot be African. He thinks like this. He knows all this. He didn't go to university, but he knows about physics, about science, about medicine, about architecture, about everything, mathematics, everything. Incredible. He's a genius of genius. And then he's African. Then they start even taking even his image. They started making it, what do you call it? I don't know. I don't see, I never see a white person with your clothes. Is there a white person like that? So they want to make him white. So this is crazy things they do. So what I want to tell you now is we need to create this Pan-African University, and we should call it the Adwa Pan-African University because the struggle heritage, because it's a unique heritage, because it's an African victory, African struggle victory, exemplary model. Because of that, let's call the university with that name. If we do that, then we can also create the philosophy, the history, everything that we want to, that we are not including, should be included in it. So let me just go through it one by one. The rationale is Adwa victory holds significance as the inspiration for all colonized peoples worldwide to resist colonialism. And March 1, 2026 marks the 130th anniversary of the Great Adwa African Victory, a special historic milestone to transform all Africans into change makers and game changers. Let's stand together to celebrate this 130 years by founding the African Adwa Pan-African University, turning a long-held promise into a reality. We promised to do it. We, in fact, started saying, let's set up this Pan-African University, but still it has not been done. Now we must do it. At least on this 130 years, let's all of us, all of you, agree with me to not just agree, like our, professor said. We should all now even make it a declaration that we want this to happen. I think we should say it. Yes, thank you, thank you. All Africans and humanity who resisted colonial mischief and need the great Adwa African victory to endure forever in the eternal river of time. Africans must look back to appreciate what brought victory so they can move forward to achieve unity and end all divisions, divisive colonial relics. In 1924, we founded the Adwa Great African Victory Association. You can also be members, we call it AGAVA, to celebrate the Adwa victory anniversary through squares, museums, parks, heritage sites, libraries, schools, scholarships, universities, statues, films, and handbook translated and published in different languages. We have done the book, but we have not yet published it. But it's already done. We're going to publish a book. Maybe next year we'll get it done. We can do it here too on one of the, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. Now, the core proclamations that we're suggesting, 130 years should be the great Adwa victory. All right? Pan-African University Proclamation Day, like this day that we are now talking about, March 1. Let's make it like that. So at least we must remember to implement the proclamation to establish the Pan-African University now. Is it possible we can do that? We should also have been this Adwa victory should have been recognized as UNESCO World Heritage. It should have been by now, but it has not been recognized. And the Pan-African education, as our brother mentioned, we should make African struggle heritage to really be very, very important, and let the university be creating that really knowledge, culture, and tradition, values, and approaches, and curriculums, everything have to be redesigned. And then Adwa also, the Pan-African University has been made before, but it has not been successful. So now we should make it successful. That's the other thing we need to do. So I think this is the Pan-African unity can also be motivated through the education system we do, that we shouldn't make difference, our differences, okay? We should appreciate. Our unity, we should celebrate. We should not say, Koza, Venda, this is crazy. We should stop this ethnic and also religion. We should not say, the greatest philosopher, we don't learn from him. Zarayakob is his name, he's a Ethiopian philosopher. He wrote a book called Hateta. It's an amazing book. And, a foreigner, Claude Sumner from Canada, is the one that translated the book. You know what he said? God is not religion. God is truth. With religion, you hurt God, he said. Isn't that interesting? Because you say, my way of worshiping God is better than your way of worshiping God, then you go to war and you fight. All right? The Muslims fight, the Christians fight. You have all these religions. And that religion is hurting God. It's not supporting God. That's what he said. So God is one, religion is not one. So, and you are hurting God because of variety of religions. In the same way, in our politics, we're also divided. Why? Ethnic division. With ethnicity, how did the colonialists use? They used our ethnicity. They divided us. The borders were drawn artificially, cynically, so that we can continue to fight. And it still continues like that. So that's what's happening to us. Core proclamation, the visionary option, the Adwa Pan-African Global University, special physical and digital libraries in Adwa should record and showcase all the African struggle histories driven by the foundation of the Adwa Pan-African University that we create. Let this university's education, knowledge, research, and innovation ensure that Africana world never surrenders to injustice ever again. That's what we should do. The action-oriented option from commemoration to global education. At the 130 years anniversary of the Great Adwa African Victory, the Adwa Pan-African University should select fundraising volunteers to create an education and research endowment fund for campuses in East, West, South, North, and Central Africa, as well as the diaspora in the Caribbean, and even include campuses in Asia and America and Latin America too, because we have Africans all over the world. So we should reach them out. And if others want to learn and to educate them, that's not a problem. If they want to come, we can admit them. The direct option, building the Adwa intellectual power value chain. Both physical, virtual, and hybrid education and research processes can be developed. We need funding to kickstart this unique Adwa Pan-African Global University, uniting Africa through a high-quality intellectual power value chain that revives, excavates, and resurrects the rich philosophies and indigenous knowledge curricula that Africa must have by now developed, but it's not well developed. Okay, the shortest option, the Adwa University Proclamation. Let's make the 130 years anniversary of the Great Adwa African Victory more than a commemoration. A time for rebirth is what we need to make it. Education rebirth, an African education rebirth, through full dedication to implementing the proclamation of the Adwa Pan-African University in this sacred moment. So let's also do a global vision for rebirth of this Pan-African University. Let's reclaim intellectual sovereignty. Make the Adwa Pan-African University a symbol of Africa's intellectual sovereignty and a home for knowledge built on our own philosophies. We have Ubuntu philosophy. We have in Ethiopia, Yulinta, which means don't pursue your interest by hurting the interests of others. No.
What is that?
It's called Yulinta. Yulinta. What it says is pursue your interest, but by acknowledging, admitting, valuing the interests of others. Don't take, give and take. All right? Something like that. It's an amazing, it's the same thing. Ubuntu, you are me, I'm you. There's an I in you, there's a you in I. It came from our South Africa here. And we have the best philosophy, but we don't practice it. Do we practice it? No, we don't. We need to practice it though. We shouldn't, if I hurt you, I'm hurting myself. So why would I want to hurt you? No way, no. We shouldn't do that, yeah. So we should educate people like that. So reject the need to mimic inherited colonial academic models, as our professor suggested, and pioneer an indigenous Pan-African curriculum rooted in African realities, languages, and innovation systems. And then build a global campus network. Let us create a living network of unity with campuses across East, West, North, South, and Central Africa, plus the diaspora. Allow each regional campus to specialize while remaining interconnected under one continental vision. Use the diaspora campus as a bridge to reconnect the global African family in research, culture, and economics, and in all other fields also. And then honor the Adwa legacy. Let us achieve full intellectual and indigenous knowledge sovereignty on this 130 years liberation anniversary. Transform the spirit of the 1896 Great Adwa African Victory into highly structured institutional unity for the world you see. And implement digital and Ubuntu models. Let us follow the example of Osiris University by applying Ubuntu philosophy in our virtual teaching methods. We have created a new university, it's called Osiris University. It is built on the principle of Ubuntu. And how we did it, I'm a board member of that, and I'm running the PhD program. And what we do is we make the students not to pay tuition. Yes. We the teachers don't get paid. You see, we're real African now. We're genuine African.
Africa Unite.
Africa Unite. The only charge we have is registration charge. But even that one, I think I'm going to remove it at some point. We need to get some funding. When the funding is there, then everything will be okay. So we're working on it. In this, as we do the Osiris University, but we run it technologically. In other words, it's online. All the courses we do it nicely. But it's really going very well. Osiris University. OSIRIS. IRIS. Osiris University. Yeah.
Osiris.
Yeah, it's based in Lincoln, Nebraska, in America. We tried to get it registered in South Africa and Nigeria, but it took time. Americans, they did it faster. I don't know why. We registered. We didn't want to do it we want to do it in Africa, but still it's African, even though it's because there are African Americans that are African also. So there's no problem. So, like we did with Osiris University, we're now a model, so we can actually now use it for the Pan-African University world. Begin with a digital and virtual campus model to prove that commitment matters more than physical infrastructure in the early stages. We start like that, and then we gradually can move on. And then the power, the second liberation. Unite to make the Adwa Pan-African University the intellectual backbone of Africa's second liberation. By second liberation, I mean intellectual liberation, we still are not. We have economic liberation, we still are not. South Africa is not, there's no economic CODESA. You may have political CODESA, I don't know. But the economy is still, we have a lot of our young people still are unemployed, and over 27 to 30%, it's not good. So we have challenges, but not South Africa. South Africa is very rich. You have 16 minerals, nearly over 4 trillion. I mean, you should all be millionaires. You're not many people. You have the best country, beautiful country, everything. What don't you have? And the people call you. I was telling him the other day. There was a big conference called occupational therapy on mental health and disability and many things like that. And there were so many people from all over the world. They say South Africans are very kind, nice people. They call you like that. So they call you nice. So please, I mean, I think we should, everything you have is very good. Nobody should be a beggar. No, not at all. Not in South Africa. So the Chinese, they have 1.5 billion people. They have no one begging. Yeah, I've been there 2 months last year. I went to 6 universities teaching there. I couldn't find any beggar. I asked them, can I show me a beggar? No, no beggar. 1.5 billion. You are nearly 62 million people. It's nothing. You are nothing compared to them. It's not. I mean, it's incredible. But we shouldn't have poor people in South Africa at all. You have everything. But I don't know how the economy is managed. But anyway, it's a different issue. My big brother has discussed about it a bit. Let's integrate knowledge, innovation, policy, and identity under one shared future and inspire the world by appreciating our difference, celebrating our shared purpose. And advanced science and leadership, let's establish a center for science, technology, and industrial transformation, advancing artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and biotechnology, train a new generation of African leaders to be confident architects of development driven by moral intelligence. Ensure our growth in public administration and continental integration is free from external risks. Let's also action to seed the foundation. The Adwa Pan-African University needs strong visionary funding, partners from the African Union, development banks, private sector, champions, philanthropic foundations, and global African diaspora. The short term, from 226 to 227 goals, establish a planning committee, identify 10 to 15 key stakeholders, including African leaders, academics, and private sector representation. We need to form that. Define the committee's terms of reference, including roles, responsibilities, and timelines. Hold an inaugural meeting to kickstart the planning process. Conduct a feasibility study. Assess market demand for programs, including potential student enrollment and job market prospects. Analyze competition from existing universities and education institutions in Africa. Develop financial projections, including startup costs, operational expenses, and revenue streams. And develop a concept paper. Outline the university's mission, vision, objectives, and academic programs. Define the governance structure, including the planning committee and future governing council. Identify potential partnerships with Africa and international institutions. Secure initial funding. Pursue funding from African governments, international organizations, and private donors. Develop a funding proposal with a detailed budget and implementation plan. Identify sources like grant, loans, and investments. Logo design for Adwa Pan-African University. The design concept will be developed. Apply a refined Pan-African color palette for the logo branding. Finalize logo refined topography to ensure a clean and a stable log mark. Actions to seed the foundation. The Adwa Pan-African University needs strong visionary funding. Partners from the African Union, development banks, and private sector champions, philanthropists, and the global African diaspora. And then I have mentioned that, I think, already. Yeah, finalize the 6 campus structure, east, west, north, as I mentioned to you. Conduct site visits and assessments. Develop infrastructure plans for building facilities and the technology. Develop academic programs. Design interdisciplinary program in African studies, development, culture, science, and technology innovation. Create curriculum framework, course outlines, syllabi, and assessments. Identify faculty and staff for program development and teaching, including indigenous knowledge excavation. Recruit faculty and staff. That's very important. Attract African and international experts for academic and administrative. Develop recruitment strategies like job posting and networking. Offer competitive salaries and benefits. Establish partnerships. Collaborate with African universities, research institutions, and the private sector. Create MOUs, contracts, and joint research proposals. Pursue student exchange, faculty collaboration, and joint degrees. Actions to seed the foundation. The Adwa Pan-African University needs strong visionary funding, partners from the African Union, Development Bank, I mentioned that. And then the goals are launch the university, welcome the first student cohort, and launch the program. The develop marketing outreach, including website and social media, expand research initiatives, foster collaboration on African solutions to global challenges, develop centers like the African Center for Development Studies and the Institute of African Innovation, secure grants, contracts, and support, grow endowments and funding, secure sustainable sources like fees and philanthropy, implement donor outreach events and campaigns, evaluate and improve, assess performance in academics, research and satisfaction, use quality assurance and indicators, benchmarking and accreditation. And then Africa Union, I don't know what Africa Union does. They leverage support for promotion agenda 266 research, access grants and technical assistance at the African Development Bank. Will they pursue funding and collaboration reports? You should ask them. International organization, I partner with UNESCO and UNDP. Will they support us? And then strategic collaboration. We have also our own Agava. We have a network of global scholars, and then we have South-South collaboration and RISA and Common Health Awards Center for Community Innovation. And think we should also link with some of these networks to make sure that we all work together and see if we can do it. So just to conclude, the 130th anniversary of the Great Adwa African Victory calls us not only to do remembrance, but also to show responsibility and dedication. And it challenges Africans and the global African family to translate a heroic past into an institutional future by establishing the Adwa Pan-African University as a living monument of knowledge, unity, and liberation. If we act with urgency, solidarity, and moral courage, this university can become the intellectual backbone of Africa's second liberation. We need our second liberation. Our first liberation is still not successful. The second liberation, if with the knowledge world, if we get liberated, I'm sincerely telling you, that will make us, correct the wrong of the first liberation. So where memory becomes movement, victory becomes vision, and Adwa's spirit guides generations, yet unborn, toward a just, peaceful, and sovereign African shared future. That's what we want. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is it okay?
Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you, Prof. And at this stage, I would like to open towards concluding the commemoration. No, I don't know. Someone is. Apologies. I'm gonna. Okay, that needs to be muted. Okay. What I wanted to say is that roots culture, heritage, and decolonization week is an initiative that there we go. So what I wanted to say is apologies everyone. There was just a quick distortion.
No.
So Roots Culture, Heritage and Decolonization Week. This is the 11th year that we will be doing the Adwa Parade in Cape Town. We started in 2016. Communities, platforms, organizations, elders. This year will be the 11th year that we are doing a parade in Cape Town. 4 or 5 years ago, we started to strongly incorporate the Battle of Salt River, which happened in 1510 when Francisco de Almeida was killed in Cape Town by the Horing Aikwa. This is after he was plundering East Africa in 1505, 1506. He sacked villages and coastal towns in Kenya and Tanzania. And then as he was retiring as the first viceroy of India, installed by King Emmanuel of Portugal, he then came to the Cape. He docked with 3-4 ships in February. He tried his tricks because he was already doing it in East Africa, rape, plunder, loot, but he met with a different civilization and bartering was not successful. The Horing Aikwa did not give in to his demands or his attempts at loot and plunder, and he was killed in Cape Town on the 1st of March in 1510. So we are going to celebrate 516 years of the Battle of Salt River, which took place on the 1st of March, and 130 years of the Battle of Adwa, which also took place on the 1st of March. So there's a great synchronicity and spiritual significance in these two battles, both taking place on the 1st of March, but 380 something years apart, right? So for us as South Africans, the fact that South Africa doesn't center the Battle of Salt River in its popular history, in its popular social discourse, in its popular heritage, right? It is painful. The same like the Battle of Isandwala is made a big public celebration, government funding, provincial funding, municipal funding. We do not see that for the Battle of Salt River. And we as young people, with the guidance of our elders, tonight we will be doing a Ngum with the Ngumkwasi from the Rietfontein areas, from the Pastor bloodlines, as they would so have called it. This is on the border of Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. So we have initiated healers that will be conducting the Ngum tonight, and tomorrow we will be doing the parade for the 11th year. We started the Roots Culture Heritage and Decolonization Week last year to commemorate 140 years of Berlin Conference. So we started on the 26th of Feb last year into a 4-day program, which we called the Roots Culture Heritage and Decolonization Week. So from commemorating Berlin leading up into the celebration of Adwa and Salt River. Last year, Dr. or Mr. Patrick Mellet did the keynote. This year, we were honored by Professor Motshekga, who's as the keynote. Our international patron of the Adwa movement has been with us for the past 5-6 years. He saw our activities through social media, and he made it a personal effort to come to Cape Town. Since that time, we have built solid relations, and we have been able to make this possible. So I want to thank the audience for coming through and blessing us with that. I think that's all I wanted to conclude as to what we are doing. And what we have a huge movement, Adwa movement page. We have like 30,000 followers. So we have a consistent track record of, even during COVID, the warriors, we on 2020 and 2021, we said we are going to parade. The police tried to stop us, right, on the 1st of March. So for 11 consecutive years through COVID, we have paraded, and we will continue to parade on the 1st of March to commemorate Salt River and Adwa annually. And we can only always call on communities to join us, right? And that is the struggle, because people want to make a post on Facebook. People want to, make a social media statement. And when we call them to come to the rite of passage, when we call them to come to the demonstration of heritage, your erfenis, then the chiefs and the kings and the people that sold the Amazon and everyone that got a piece of the pie for selling the Lisbeth River, and everyone, right? We know these struggles, and they don't show up for one of the pinnacle moments, which is the Battle of Salt. It's supposed to be central into our indigeneity as people that are saying we are here for Kam, Kwe, and Ba into unity. Anyway, give thanks. With that, I would like to represent a letter that we received from His Imperial Highness Crown Prince Ermias Saleh Selassie, Haile Selassie. He wrote a letter, and it's a letter of appreciation. And I'm just going to read it, and then I'm going to present it to my elders. To our brothers and sisters of the Adwa movement of South Africa. The Crown Council of Ethiopia writes to you, His Imperial Highness Prince Jeremiah Saleh Selassie Haile Selassie, the President. It is with great pleasure that I have learned of your intention to commemorate the great victory of the Battle of Adwa, achieved under the leadership of the great Emperor Menelik II of Ethiopia against the forces of European colonialism. As you know, the victory was hard won on the blood of our ancestors. Commemorating this event not only honors their sacrifices, but the sacrifices of all those who have laid down their lives in the cause of freedom. The victory of Adwa, beyond defeating the colonial ambitions of Italy, symbolizes much more. In the Ethiopian and African context, it demonstrates that unity is strength and that the united people will be victorious in the face of adversity. It is to be noted that when Emperor Menelik II, in his declaration of war, said, "You who are strong, help me with your arms. You who are weak, help me with your prayers." It was not just his empress and his nobles who followed him north with their armies to confront the invader. Even the rebels, bandits, put down their grievances to join him to repel the enemy and rush northward to die for God, king, and country. It is the perfect example of how unity is strength. The victory of Adwa not only established Ethiopia on the world stage and guaranteed recognition of her independence, it also inspired a fire in the hearts of all Africans and people of African descent around the world. It lit a spark that inspired Pan-Africanism, the independence movements across the continent, and the struggle for equality and respect for all people in Africa and the diaspora. Adwa was the catalyst which launched the liberation of the oppressed and the eventual dismantling of European colonialism in Africa. It inspired the efforts of my grandfather, Emperor Haile Selassie I, his government, to work towards the establishment of the Organization of African Unity, which is now the African Union. It also inspired his dedication to the cause of freedom in South Africa, fighting apartheid and offering tangible support to Nelson Mandela in his struggle, including providing him with a passport and training. So, as you celebrate the great victory of Adwa and Salt River, know this is not just the victory of Ethiopia, but the victory of all Africans and all freedom-loving people. And may the bonds that tie us together strengthen, and may God bless Ethiopia, Africa, and all of you gathered to celebrate this day. Sincerely yours, Prince Jeremiah Saleh Selassie. So yeah, if you Ma'am,